What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Locked In Sports Podcast. I'm William Locke, and joining me today is Luis Barranco. Luis, how you doing?
Happy Sunday. We're back to regular scheduled programming, it feels like.
Yeah, I missed the week due to Memorial Day. We were both kind of busy last week, so missed it. Apologies. But we did post our team of the month. We did obviously keep the weekly stock market updates and the locks of the week posted last week. So we're giving you guys some content on the gram. Be sure to follow us, Locked In Sports Pod. Also, not to pat ourselves on the back, but we did get back on track on the locks this week. Went 2 for 2. I went with Astros to lose the series against Minnesota, and then you had Reds to win the series over the Cubs, which was a good pick, good pull there, considering the Reds haven't necessarily been playing great baseball, but nice little 2 for 2 to end off the weekend here.
Can't complain. Man, can't complain. I mean, it's all about good teams cover, good bettors cover, good bettors make good picks.
I think it's good teams win, great teams cover. I think that's the phrase you were looking for. But
hey, man, we make good picks. Good picks, all that matters. That's all we care about these days. Good picks and making money. That's all that matters these days.
Trying to stay positive for the year.
Hey, man, stay positive. Hey, look at me. If y'all are looking at this in the video standpoint, I look like a freaking bum. But we're making shit happen.
The hair. Yeah, you haven't gotten a haircut in a while. Seems pretty long.
I'm gonna get it this week. I mean, I've been really busy lately. Just life has been going on, so we'll get to it.
Things happen. I mean, we got a fun pod scheduled for you guys today. We're just under already. I mean, 2 months out from the trade deadline, which is July 31st this year. So we're gonna kind of take stock of what the market might look like, who are going to be some of the key buyers and sellers, because the deadline really is probably the most important thing that happens besides obviously games. Biggest off the field happening in the season. So it's always fun to kind of chop it up, talk about the trade deadline, who's going to be moving where, who are some guys that are going to be potentially moved. So get you kind of set up as we sit here in the beginning of June to see really who might get moved and who might be doing the trading, who might be doing the selling. Then we'll talk after that. We'll talk about the standings and kind of the last 2 weeks of baseball and where things stand heading into the coming week. Maybe talk a little bit about our team of the months that we posted up on the Instagram yesterday. We'll do our locks of the week, and we'll get out of here on this fine Sunday afternoon. Or it's kind of evening at this point. 7 o'clock. Luis.
It is an evening. It is an evening. That is for sure.
Yeah. And I guess it's 8 o'clock where you are. So
it is evening. Bro.
You good?
Bro, I'm good. I'm chill. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to talk some ball, Well, you okay? We got technical difficulties on that end?
Huh?
Technical difficulties on that end?
Well, you're just yawning. I wasn't sure if you're ready to go.
I've been at home all day, man. I've been, been doing work here in the house, So I don't have the patented tie-dye shirt on today. It's different. I know the listeners will hear that tie-dye shirt. But let's talk about it. I mean, we're going to talk about the deadline. I mean, we've been having Mega Doc up trying to decide what the hell is going to happen. I mean, there's teams we look at right now in the standings. It is June 2nd once we record this. Still got one Sunday night baseball game, but we kind of feel like we do have a clear picture of who's going to be selling and who's going to be buying. I mean, there's been a lot of reports coming out in the past couple of days on who is going to be available and who's not going to be available. And might as well, let's start with the Mets. The Mets this past week and a half, 2 weeks have been an absolute train wreck, to say the least. Starting from the Jorge Lopez debacle, which I feel like that's very unfortunate. And, for those that don't know, he absolutely got shelled on Wednesday night. He comes out of the game, gets interviewed in his locker, and he said this team's awful. But if you hear him from a non-native listener, you can literally hear him say teammate under his breath. It's just pronunciation. He was DFA'd.
Threw his glove into the stands. I mean, I would say that's the quote. Maybe he was misquoted, and obviously English isn't his first language, so you definitely have to give him the benefit of the doubt there. the glove thing into the stands, while it doesn't harm a fan it's not dangerous, it still wasn't a great look for him.
But I mean, the Mets have just been a train wreck in the past few weeks, and I feel like the Mets season. I feel like that's the Mets season in a nutshell. Last night they put up 10 runs. They put up 10 runs Friday, and then they gave up 10 last night. It's they're just not good. They're just not a good team. They're 24-35, and as of recording of this podcast, the Marlins have caught a hot streak and are only 3 games back. If you would have told us that the Marlins would have caught up to the Mets, I think we all would have laughed at you, because I feel like we all agree that the Mets have more talent, and they're pretty much open on moving anybody. Yeah. Excuse me, guys. Pete Alonso, Harrison Bader, Luis Severino should be high-ticket commodities on that team.
Those are all expirings.
What is your take? Will you see any natural fits with them? I mean, I kind of feel like we'll both agree that the Mets do need to sell and continue the rebuild.
I think the biggest question for them is, do they move Polar Pete at the deadline if their season's completely lost? He's a homegrown guy. He's expressed an interest in playing his entire career for the Mets, and he will be a free agent. He is a Boras client. I think there's a good chance that he could get moved at the trade deadline and then sign back with the Mets in the winter. I think he's been struggling. He had a massive slump in May, but the power's still there. Maybe it's like just a change of scenery to help get him going again. But I think he's a name that will, you should definitely pay attention to at the trade deadline. He's expiring. In terms of the Mets in general, yeah, they're going to be sellers, but they're still a sleeping giant because they have Steve Cohen and they can spend a lot of money this offseason. And, they're, for as much as I hate to say it, they'll probably be in the Soto market and be a big player in that market, considering they're one of the handful of teams that can offer him, the contract that he is going to get. So Pete, Harrison Bader, he's on a 1-year deal. I think he's a guy, if there's a team out there that needs outfield help, like the Atlanta Braves, the Braves are with Acuna out for the season. I think they're going to be looking for outfielders, even though Anthopoulos kind of came out and said this week that, he's going to try to stay internal and keep their Duvall, Kelenic, Harris in the outfield. I think there's the potential for them to go get an outfielder. They did it in 21 when they got Peterson, Duvall, Soler, and Rosario and won the World Series. So Bader's a name. I think JD Martinez got a bit of a late start this year, but with that late signing, but he's a free agent. Could move him. Jose Quintana, and I think you mentioned Severino as well, as guys that could get moved at the trade deadline. They're going to be open for business. I think they're going to be one of the biggest sellers. And you could have predicted it before the season when they went out and signed all these guys to 1-year deals, but they're a team to watch. I don't necessarily think outside of Alonso, like there's any names that really excite me. But there's some, bit part pieces, rotation pieces, if you would say, that could help a team at the deadline.
Yeah, no, I think there's the whole internal talk about the Braves is a total lie, because they did acquire Ramon Laureano on a minor league deal. So I do feel they'll make a move, and I feel like the Mets are just going to save face and clean a house. I mean, there's nothing on the field that values production. I mean, the biggest difference between the Marlins and the Mets, I feel like the Mets have more talent, but the Marlins, like, we have to give credit to their managerial staff. Like, if we can trade managers, I think Skip Schumacher would be the number 1 manager available at the trade deadline if managers were able to get traded. I mean, perfect segue to the Marlins. I mean, we've been talking about this team a lot. I mean, Jesus Luzardo, he's turning it around. Tanner Scott's a really good closer, and he's on an expiring contract that, like, hey, Baltimore, trade him up to Baltimore. And then you got guys like Josh Bell. And, probably the biggest fish that's going to be available is going to be Jazz, just because of the sheer potential and talent you have, the whole ceiling on it.
Yeah. Jazz, just contractually, he's got 2 more years of arbitration before he becomes a free agent. He's only at $2.6 million this year, 26 years old. I think he's a guy that would really benefit from a change of scenery. So he's certainly a name to watch, and the Marlins will be huge sellers. I mean, they already traded their best player, Luis Arraez, to San Diego last month. they have an abundance of pitching, especially youthful pitching. I mean, all of their pitchers are under 28. Sandy's 28 and he's out for the season. So Luzardo, I mean, he has 2 more years of arbitration and then he's a free agent. He's really turned it around. I mean, I picked him up in fantasy. He's been great so far. Only at 5.5 this year. Lefty, 26 years old. Like he might be the biggest arm moved at the trade deadline because of those 2 years of control. They also could move like a Ryan Weathers, Edward Cabrera, maybe. Tanner Scott is certainly a big name to watch. I wouldn't be stunned if they move AJ Puck, even though the whole starting thing really hasn't worked out for him. Outside of that, in Miami, like Tim Anderson's an expiring. He's been
he's not getting moved.
Unfortunately, he hasn't been great. Josh Bell, 16. Josh Bell's making $16.5 million this year. That's a lot of money. I don't know I don't know how much you take that on if you traded for him, but he'll probably get moved as well. He moved at I think the last 2 deadlines, so he's
but the whole thing about it is the first base market. It's all going to be predicated by Polar Pete and the price.
Yes,
the prices are going to be high, and I feel like there's going to be so many first basemen in free agency. Reese Hoskins is going to be available. Polar Pete. You'll have
wait. Why is Reese Hoskins going to be available?
Free agent at the end of the season. That's what I'm saying.
First place Brewers, though.
I'm not saying they're going to move him as a trade, but I'm just saying, like, what do they value him? Like the free agency said, so like those teams that need a first baseman, you'd be better off acquiring another positional piece than actually spending your top capital on when you can get someone of equal or better value out in free agency for free. In parentheses.
Well, for free without giving up some of the farm. Yeah, if you're willing to wait, the extra 3 months, whatever, 4 months.
It's just like what teams need first base? Dodgers, we were going to talk about them. They need offensive help. They don't need a first baseman. They got Freddie Freeman. Atlanta doesn't need a first baseman. I don't think you can talk about the Yankees. Rizzo. I don't think you want to eat more money up right now.
Rizzo's gone after this year, probably. I think it's like a team option that they won't pick up. I don't think he's been pretty poor. Yankees could be in the market for a first baseman. I think if you have to point to one position in the Yankees infield that's a weakness, I mean, you could argue Glaber with the way he's been playing, but you could slot DJ at first. But I'd rather have DJ at third. First base could be a spot for the Yankees. I mean, when you think about it, most of the Yankees' production this year offensively has come from shortstop and Soto and Judge. Verdugo's come on of late.
Stanton.
Stanton. I mean, he's having a resurgent season. It's been great. But first base, I don't think is out of the question for the Yankees. Like they could be in the market. Pete Alonso would be a big fish, and I think it would take the Yankees extra to get him because Steve Cohen's not going to give the Yankees a good deal on Pete Alonso. So I don't think he'd go across town. It would make sense, but I don't think.
I don't like the fit, to be honest. I really don't. The Yankees, they put up a stat on Friday Night Baseball. The Yankees produce 50% of their runs from the home run, which is top 5 in dependency on the home run. You need more contact, guys, and I feel like you're better off getting a contact bat out in first base or third, depending on where you're going to put DJ. And and I don't think the Yankees are going to trade Jason Dominguez. Peraza is probably movable, but Jason Dominguez and Spencer Jones probably don't get moved at this point.
And that's the thing with the Yankees. They're going to be buyers for sure at the deadline. I think we need probably another bullpen arm, and with Schmidt going down with Vlad until probably for a few months. I think we're going to maybe need some rotational depth. I don't know if they're going to prioritize bats at the deadline, but the Yankees have traded so much over the past few years. Like the farm system has gotten somewhat depleted where, the only real prizes the Yankees have in their farm right now are Spencer Jones, our Jason Dominguez, and our Peraza. It's like, do you really want to part ways with one of those guys at this point? Because I think next year, especially if the Yankees don't re-sign Soto, Dominguez, and for as much as, Soto's 10 times better than Dominguez, but he's somewhat of a Soto insurance. Verdugo's gone. So if you re-sign Soto and then you bring in Dominguez in the outfield next year, and then you got Dominguez, Soto, and Judge, that's exciting. So I just think Dominguez is blocked this season, but I do think that he's still part of the long-term plans. I think Spencer Jones is part of the long-term plans. I don't know if you've seen, but those guys are absolutely mashing right
They're Reagan.
now.
Yeah.
So I really don't want to move those guys because they could be part of the future. Peraza maybe, but you might have to give up some MLB talent if you're the Yankees to go out and get another bullpen piece, go out and get maybe another arm in the rotation, just because Schmidt going down is really going to hurt. I mean, Cody Poteet is going to be our fifth starter, and we'll see how long he can hold up. The Yankees had a great sweep this weekend in San Fran, but the rotational depth is going to be challenged. Now, Garrett Cole is pitching in Double-A this weekend, first rehab assignment. They're saying maybe mid to late June at this point. I still think you should take every precaution, and they will. They'll take every precaution needed, but Cole's coming back soon, so maybe you won't need as much rotational depth. But long story short, I think the Yankees are going to be active, trying to get maybe one more bullpen piece, maybe some arm rotational depth. We'll see. First base, I think that's an option, but it might be their third priority.
Maybe they'd make a reunion with they call up Oakland and go get Miguel Andujar. I mean, they're frequent traders. I mean, Miguel Andujar is raking right now for the A's. I mean, the A's are no business to be buying. They have guys. They have major league arms that I feel like they would be a good partner for the Yankees to pick up a 6th or 7th long reliever type guy, along with a cornerback. Maybe a Miguel Andujar and a Ross Stripling can make a nice difference in that lineup. They already know Andujar. Stripling's played for the Dodgers, played in those big games, so he could be a good 5th starter for the time being and put him in there. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about the A's. They're certainly going to be sellers. That's not, a question. They're on our list here as certain sellers. They've had a better season than anticipated. A lot of people thought they were going to be the worst team in the league. They're certainly not. I mean, the White Sox are very clearly the worst team in baseball this year. There's some talent on there that I think they can move. I like the idea of a Ross Stripling as being like a 5th guy. Alex Woods and expiring as well. In terms of infield bats, J.D. Davis, Miguel Andujar, you're right. Relievers, Scott Alexander, Trevor Gott, and T.J. McFarland, lesser names there. The most interesting ones that are under team control after this season, Paul Blackburn, who started out the season hot. He's a low velo guy and more of a contact type pitcher, which I don't think would fare well in Yankee Stadium. The big name, in my opinion, is Mason Miller. There was rumors that they are requiring a king's ransom to get him. Right now, I don't think it would make sense for the Yankees to go out and get Mason Miller this deadline. But I think they should. I think if you're at Oakland, you should probably keep a hold of Mason Miller. Just kind of, you need somebody to be part of that franchise, moving forward. Another name, Brent Rooker, who had a great May. He was in my team of the month for May. Outfield, actually from Memphis, ECS product. I think he's a name to watch for Atlanta. I think that'd be a perfect fit. He's from the South. He might even be a Braves. He might have been a Braves fan growing up, for all we know. In Memphis, either a Braves or a Cardinals fan.
You already know. Maybe Austin Riley's putting up the phone call up to Anthopoulos up there.
Maybe. I think that move would make a lot of sense because, like we said, Anthopoulos said they want to keep it internal, but that could just be posturing. That could just be some type of leverage play. I don't know.
They signed Ramon Laureano on Thursday. You don't sign Ramon Laureano does not sign a contract. He's like MLB quality. Production hasn't been great, but he's MLB. He's an MLB quality defender at worst.
Yes. So those are some of the A's guys that are going to be moved or should keep your ears out. Rooker was an all-star last year. I know the A's have to have an all-star. Every team has to have an all-star, but he had a pretty good season. He's hitting a lot of home runs this year. Power bat in the outfield. I think because I don't think Miller will be moved, but I think Rooker will. So Rooker is kind of the biggest name to watch from the A's, in my opinion, outside of those expiring guys.
Angels and Rockies, the teams out west. I mean, the Angels, I think, is where you're going to go bargain bin for relievers. I feel like they got Estevez, Garcia, Adam Simber. He used to pitch up in Canada for the Jays, and Jose Cisnero. And they got Tyler Anderson, who's been pitching all right, and Patrick Sandoval, who can be a nice little project piece. So I feel like the Angels are going to be sellers. They're just a bad baseball team. They got the dog water knocked out of them this weekend by I think it was Minnesota. By the Mariners. Yeah, the Mariners. It could have been worse. It was bad. It could have been worse. And when you look at the Rockies, I feel like the Rockies are just kind of in no man's land. And they won't deal McMahon for some odd reason. I think Charlie Blackmon's a Rocky for life, and then Elias Diaz is supposedly available. But then we run in we don't need to pound the horse of the catcher debate type. So
I think in terms of the Angels, another name, Luis Rengifo, has been having a good season, surprisingly. He kind of used to be a punching bag on this podcast, but he's been good. Taylor Ward, Joe Adell, those guys are under control, but they've been having good seasons. I feel like Taylor Ward, they should move him. So he's another guy to watch for a team that needs outfield help. Same with Joe Adell. Will they be willing to move a guy that's, was a top prospect, finally starting to perform? We'll see. Elias Diaz, the Cubs, if the Cubs are going to be buyers, which I have the Cubs as, could go either way. They could be buyers, they could be sellers, depending on how June and July go. With the way the Cubs have been playing, they might fall off a cliff and they might be sellers. Who knows? They're already falling off the cliff. They're pretty much out of the divisional race at this point, unfortunately for Cubs fans. So I think Elias Diaz makes sense for the Cubs.
Yeah.
They're going to be buyers. They need a catcher. Their catching position is
Cubs need a lot right now. Cubs need bullpen. Cubs need hitting. They need everything. Michael Bush has fell off a cliff. Cody Bellinger isn't the Cody Bellinger of last year, and Swanson's been hurt. It's kind of been the season from hell from the Cubs, other than hitting on Shota Imanaga.
Yeah.
So I mean, if David Ross is up there, I kind of feel like the season is probably just like Council's done a decent enough job right now.
You see him get booed heavily in Milwaukee this week.
I mean, it's dumb. I feel it's just dumb. I feel like Milwaukee's trying to make a rivalry out of nothing. Like, what history does Milwaukee have? There's no baseball heritage in Milwaukee. It's Chicago. The Cubs are baseball heritage. Like, the Cubs are one of the original teams, one of the biggest fan bases in the country. Like, you're trying to make a rivalry that doesn't exist.
If you go look on the Brewers, team history, they've been pretty average to bad for, certainly our entire lives. I think they won a World Series in the 70s.
Never won a World Series. They've never won a World Series, and they
were in the World Series in the 70s.
In '82, and they want to be baseball heritage. They're not a part of baseball heritage. Like, relax.
Yeah, outside of Bud Selig was their owner and then became the commissioner. That's like their kind of role. Hank Aaron played for the Brewers. He played in Milwaukee. I don't know if he played for the same franchise.
No, it's just dumb. I just don't feel it's that much. But
well, they're trying to make it because it's so close to Chicago. It's certainly a rivalry that Brewers fans feel more passionately about than Cubs fans do. But hey, you got to tip your cap to the Brewers. They're playing a hella good baseball this year with some of the names we've hit on them in recent podcasts.
They have talent. That's the thing. They have talent. The Cubs are. They have talent, but I would take the Brewers' talent. I'll go back on my word if I did say that in a whole podcast. But yeah, the Brewers have more talent, like the pitching talent. The pitching lab there does some work in a way.
And just back to the Council thing, I just don't think managers really matter that much in baseball anymore. I think they're all kind of just following what the analytics tell them to do, what the front office tells them to do. They're more about vibes and locker room camaraderie or keeping the locker room together.
That's a really good point you brought up because, and sorry I said that, but on the telecast on Friday, I was looking. They put up Scott Cervantes' on Apple TV his background, and he was the assistant general manager for the Angels before he became the manager of the whatchamacallit, of the Mariners. Like, he was a scout. I'll tell you right now, he was a senior player. He was at the Rangers from 2004 to 2010 as a senior director of player development. Then the Angels hired him as assistant general manager in 2011, and then in 2015 he became the manager.
Yeah.
So it's like
I view managers now in baseball more as like talking heads for the front office, and they're more, kind of, because we don't really hear much from the front office. Brian Cashman will give an interview like once in the summer, once in the winter, once in spring training. You don't really hear much. You hear from the manager every single day. He's kind of the voice of the front office, and he's the voice for some of the players in the sense that he's talking about injuries and all that stuff. He's more of a PR guy than he is X's and O's. It's not like soccer, where the manager makes just such a massive difference, or football. There's more of a debate in football. I just really don't know how much a manager matters. So, like, why do Brewers fans really care? I mean, the Brewers are better than they were last year with a different manager. So
it is,
and arguably a worse roster this year. It's just weird the way the sports works that way, baseball. So those are the absolute will be sellers. We got White Sox, Marlins, Angels, Rockies, A's, and Mets. Now this is where it gets interesting. Kind of the teams that could go either way. Buyers could be sellers, and this is where the expanded playoffs, have really made a big difference on the trade deadline in really all sports. You see it in football now, you see it in basketball with the play-in, you're seeing it in baseball now in year 2 of the expanded playoffs, year 2 or 3, I think year 3 of the expanded playoffs, where teams are, if you're 3 games out, 4 games out of the wild card right now, they're talking themselves into it. You're talking yourselves into the season. I mean, look what the Diamondbacks did last year. They were the last wild card, made it all the way to the World Series. So I have teams that could go either way. I have the Braves, shockingly enough, the Red Sox, the Rays, the Giants, the Cubs, the Blue Jays, which is a team I want to talk about. I think they're arguably the most interesting team at this year's trade deadline. Pirates, Nationals, Diamondbacks. Another interesting team that we should talk about, the Astros, and also the Reds. The Reds are out of it in terms of like standings this year, I think, but I think they could go either way because they're still super young. And they could buy just to boost the future because they're going to be good in the future.
And that's where I have like a little certain categories for these teams.
Okay.
So when I look at Pittsburgh and Washington, I feel like they're just opportunity buyers. Where I don't think they move anybody except it's an old veteran. Like maybe Washington moves an Eddie Rosario, an outfielder, to Atlanta, who's having a decent year, who's had a little resurgence to continue to build up their system and give time to guys like Jacob Young. Or they move Lane Thomas, who is a rare talent, which he steals bases, hits for power. Hasn't hit the greatest this year. But like I said, those 2 teams are probably opportunity buyers. The Reds are in an interesting spot because the Reds pretty much don't have much to sell in their farm. Because Marte has PEDs. We haven't seen him. They need pitching, so you're not trading your top pitching prospect. You're going to rent Louder. And then you're down to Edwin Arroyo. And are you really going to bin him off when, in reality, I only think there's one guy that's secured in that infield, and that's Ellie De La Cruz. I don't think India is a part of the core. I don't think Encarnacion Strand's a part of the core. And I don't think McLean's going through a big shoulder surgery. So
Are those your neighbors playing music?
Yes, they have been playing music.
That's so annoying. I can hear the bass vibrating.
Yeah, the other day they were blasting Beyonce at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, please, some of us have work to do at home.
On a work day doing that?
On Friday afternoon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so but yeah, that's how I feel about the Reds.
Yeah. You want to talk? I mean, I think we already talked about the Braves, but I think they can go either way because they're kind of far out of it in the East. Injuries. I don't think they'll punt on a season. There's too much talent.
They're not going to punt. They're just going to do small buys. They'll probably will buy very, very. They've had a lot of injuries to the prospects too. So I think like they're going to buy very cautiously and looks like opportunity buys for just an outfielder. And we're going to have a conversation about the Braves because their outfield's weak, if you think about it. Like outside of Acuna and Harris, it's a revolving door out there in left. Like, yeah, as much as like we talk about Kelnick, it's who else is in their in their outfield, like fourth outfield. With the Yankees, I mean, you got Jason Dominguez come in, you have Trent Grisham, and you even have Oswaldo Cabrera too.
Yeah, I don't like him in the outfield, but he can play there if needed.
He can if needed.
I talked about this. I don't know if I talked about this on the pod, but we definitely talked about it over text. I've been worried about the Braves for a few weeks now.
I'm not
there yet. You're still not there.
not there yet. I was watching Liga MX last week final, and I get the news, and I'm like, I'm not that concerned. I'll be concerned in like August if this is still there. But at the end of the day, they I I'll repeat myself again and again. I'd rather them get hot at the end of the year than be the regular season champions.
Yeah.
And when you look at this, and when you look at these divisions, like the Giants and the Padres are there. The Padres just underwent like, I don't know what the Padres do if they could go either way. Like you expect them to buy, but it's just like what can they buy? They're pretty much farm systems, pretty much top end talent that you're not going to go out and go get freaking rental pieces and non foundational pieces. And that's what I feel like there's going to be a lack of the market. I feel like there will be a lack of foundational pieces. I feel like there's only one guy that's a foundational piece, and that's Jazz. I don't think there's no foundational pieces probably in this market.
And you very rarely get those foundational pieces at the trade deadline. I mean, who were the biggest names traded last year? Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer. Those were oddities. That doesn't happen every single year where a team goes out like the Mets and they splurge in free agency and they have two big name pitchers that and things don't go well and they end up being sellers. I don't know if we really have that as much this year. The Mets were quiet in the offseason. The Dodgers spent a ton, but they're good. The Yankees went out and got Soto. They're obviously not going to trade him. So are there going to be any massive names at this trade deadline? And that's the question because there's so many really bad teams. Not many of them have really great players. I mean, we didn't talk about Luis Robert Jr. on the White Sox. They could move him, but I think the White Sox view him as a foundational piece. I would be very surprised if Chris Getz moves Robert in year one at the helm in Chicago. He kind of needs somebody to build around. I mean, they got Crochet.
You think Reinsdorf's going to let that happen? Come on, man. Like, you live in that city. You think he's going to let that happen?
The trade?
Do you think Reinsdorf is going to be like, I am going to field the worst possible roster and keep these seats empty at guaranteed rate? No,
he wants 81 and 81 baseball. He doesn't want 90 wins.
But that's what I'm saying.
He doesn't want 70. He wants 81 and 81.
He's like the Rockies. They're like a juiced up Rockies. The Rockies will never fully embrace a tank. The Rockies.
I don't know why. Dude, if you're a Rockies fan, that might be the most hopeless franchise in this sport. Them and the Angels, I think.
No, yeah, at least the freaking A's have a pitch good like development system. Like for as much crap as we give them, like I'm just gonna put my hands up whenever a trade they do because like they make shit into gold at this point. They
do. I mean, look at Shea Langoliers. Dude's hitting bombs this year.
Well, he was a top prospect out of Atlanta. I mean, he wasn't what you expected to get back for a Matt Olson. You expected something else, but still, like Esteury Ruiz now has a launch angle. It's not like Detroit that freaking nukes their hitters. And that's like, I mean, and like Detroit's an interesting team where I think they can go either way as well. As high as I am in Detroit, I feel like they could trade Jack Flaherty at the deadline.
Yeah.
He's going to be a big fish. And when you look at the key buyers, I think the Orioles will be looking to get an arm. And I think the Orioles are gonna make a huge play for probably not Flaherty, but maybe the Marlins with Luzardo and Scott. Because
if they get both of those guys, that's a dream if you're an Orioles fan.
But it's just like there's not a lot of good quality arms, and I feel like Baltimore has been a team that's built for the future and built with more than a year in mind. And when they do make those like rental moves like they did last year with Flaherty, it was like very low cost, beneficial. So I would like to see them get. I keep saying Orioles and Marlins. They could probably get Scott and Luzardo for a bag of peanuts, some crab cakes, and some oysters. So at this point,
in terms of like that's what Baltimore needs. They're going to be certainly a buyer. I mean, the Yankees and the Orioles are going to be in the dogfight for the AL East this season. Orioles need pitching because they just lost John Means and Tyler Wells for the season with Tommy John. Unfortunately, I mean, John Means just coming back from Tommy John. Now he's going on the shelf again for it.
Yep.
So I think they're Dean Kramer's on the injured list right now. They're saying he might not be back till the end of June. They need pitching help, I think. And this proves like going out and getting Corbin Burns was huge for them this year. Imagine if they were, doing this without Corbin Burns. So Yeah, the biggest thing that concerns me with the Orioles is just their youth and inexperience in the road in the lineup, but really it's pitching depth right now, and I think they need to go out and add some quality arms to the rotation. I don't think they do a reunion with Jack Flaherty just because I don't think that worked out. You mentioned Luzardo, that's a dream scenario. I mean, because they don't really have a lefty in that rotation. It's mostly righties. So
let's put Luzardo and Scott in there, and let's ride. Let's that's what I would do.
as the Yankee fan, I don't want to see that happen because that would be perfect for them. But yeah,
The Yankees, and I feel like if they do that, I want to be that scared either. If I'm the Yankees, I'm just trying to make sure I have 7 and 8 locked up.
if I'm the Yankees, yeah,
7 and 8 locked up and a nice little contact back. Simple.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. You want to talk about Toronto? Because I think Toronto's fascinating.
I was going to run through some. Yeah, let's go Toronto. I mean, Toronto, we know what's going to happen. They're going to flunk again. They're not going to make the playoffs, and then they're just going to end up, guess what? They're going to buy. They're going to buy something or not sell, and we'll be back here next year waiting for the same shit, different year type shit,
Yeah, they're 12.5 back in the division. I mean, that's a lost cause, and they're 4.5 back in the wild card right now. Like they have Vlad and they have Bo Bichette, right? Those are the big names that are under team control. They're young.
Springer sucks this year. Springer's got off. We got demoted to 6. Now they have Davis Schneider at first, who's been a pleasant surprise. Their pitching's all right. I mean, Barrios, Gosman, and Bassett doesn't really get me going. It's kind of it's whatever. It's just you're just competing to be 81 and 81 baseball. So it's just and now you're playing Vlad at third base too. So that's a great idea. Let's slap a dude who hasn't played third base in years at third base instead of his natural position at first. Great job.
Apparently, they've expressed interest in Ryan McMahon from Colorado, but like you said earlier, Colorado does not want to trade him for whatever reason. Also, expirings in Toronto: Justin Turner, UC Kikuchi, and Kevin Kiermaier. A team that needs outfield help, defensive outfield help, fourth outfielder maybe. Kevin Kiermaier is the guy. But the biggest names for them,
Justin Turner and the Yankees, though. Justin Turner and the Yankees would be amazing because
Vlad and Bo, though. I think those are the names to watch. I don't think that my prediction is they don't move them because they're stingy. They think they can make a run to the wild card. They think they have the talent, whatever, and they're going to be viewing those guys as pillars moving forward. But I don't know. I mean, Vlad's been good of late. He had a resurgent May, but I don't know. I just don't see.
I don't want to waste my oxygen anymore in Toronto because they're just very frustrating. We know what they are. The Atlanta Hawks of baseball.
That's a good comp.
Atlanta Hawks of baseball. That's what they are. That's what they are. We'll be back here in a couple of years talking about the whole missed door that opened. Just want to run through
the Hawks in the conference final.
Blue Jays were right in the thick of things.
I know.
This was a trailer. Next year's going to be the movie. Yeah. Phillies. I feel like the Phillies are another team that I feel like they'll make small moves, bullpen moves. Don't really see them unless an opportunity buy in the outfield. Maybe they can move that Castellanos contract, who's been awful this year. I don't see them make a big move. They've kind of just done really well. The guards, again, probably if another team that probably doesn't buy because they're young and they have a good nucleus, they don't want to mess that up unless they buy a really cheap starting pitcher that can fit long-term in there. That's what I kind of feel like they'll buy, but their top prospects right now are all hurt. Chase DeLautner just went back on the IL. Daniel Espino, haven't heard of him in a minute, so it's tough for them. We spoke about the Dodgers. The Brewers we talked about. Yeah. Royals? What do you think about the Royals?
They're buyers. I mean, if you look into what they're doing right now, they're in a wild card spot, 36 and 25. Rotation's been a strong suit for sure for them this season. I did not expect the Royals to be this good. I took their under, but I mean, I'm excited for them. I'm excited for their fans. They're finally good again. In terms of areas that I can see maybe, improvement needed. Bobby Witt's their shortstop, so they're not going there. Catcher, they're set. You maybe need some help at the at the back end of the bullpen. James MacArthur is their closer right now. Maybe like second base. I mean, they're running Nick Lofton out there. Right field, Adam Frazier, kind of weak spot there. Maybe they're a team in need of an outfielder. I think like MJ Melendez, Adam Frazier, and Kyle Isbell is just not a great outfield. So maybe they're a team that could be in the market for like a Brent Rooker or maybe like a Tyler Ward from LA. I think those could be some decent moves for them. I think the rotation is kind of set with Cole Reagan, Seth Lugo, and Brady Singer. Like that's a really good playoff three. Believe it or not, I think they're kind of set in that position. So I think they maybe need another bat or two. I don't think they're going to do anything massive by any stretch of the imagination because they don't really have the farm to go out and do it unless they want to trade our guy Frank Mazzucato, the lefty from Connecticut. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking right now for KC.
Bader watch there.
What'd you say?
Bader. Just slap him out there.
Fascinating.
Why not? Mariners need bats. We don't even get deep. It's just like
we've been talking about that forever, dude. They need bats.
What do you think the Rangers and Cardinals do? I kind of feel like they're very similar. And the Rangers, like they lost Friday and they look bad. And I was like, I texted you like, yo, the Rangers got issues. They somehow won yesterday. They bounced back, but man, I don't know. Talk to me.
Yeah, the Rangers need their arms to come back. DeGrom, Scherzer, and Malley. They need that, and the bats haven't been going. Now Corey Seager had a crazy May.
He did that indeed. He did. Big bounce back for Corey Seager. It was a really good bounce back May for Corey Seager. Now, when we look at what they need, their bullpen hasn't been great, so they're going to have to adjust their bullpen for sure. And then along with adjusting their bullpen, they're going to need to get healthy. So hopefully getting healthy, getting Evan Carter back will get them back to speed, and that will work out.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I just talked about the Rangers for the listeners.
How long was I out? I lost connection. Fangraph screwed my connection.
Like 30 seconds. I was saying like they need rotational help. They're not rotational help. They need to get healthy. Evan Carter needs to get healthy. Wyatt Langford just got back, and they need to get some bullpen help. Just getting to Kirby Yates, that's what they'll need. But I mean, it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
And then the Cardinals.
I also think they need to get Scherzer and I talked about this while my computer crashed.
Yeah.
Scherzer and DeGrom back and Malley. That's been killing them.
Malley, yeah.
And also, like I did mention that Corey Seager just had a hell of a season.
I did mention that. I did indeed mention that. It's just interesting. I mean, we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens. And with the Cardinals, I mean, I don't know what you do. I mean, I'm very against what the Cardinals are doing. God knows what's gonna happen with them. If they sell, they'll get a lot of shit back. Jojo Romero on the Yankees, we've floated that one right now. Ryan Helsley will be. I couldn't even imagine the price for Helsley on the market.
Well, I just don't think they're going to sell. Their front office is going to talk themselves into the fact that they're in it. They're 7.5 back in the division, but they're right in the thick of it for a wild card spot. I just don't think they're going to sell. And they like if they traded an Arenado, you get a king's ransom. Goldschmidt is a free agent. He's been struggling, but you'd still, I think, get something. A team would talk themselves into them turning it around. My thing with STL, St. Louis, is they have good prospects. So if they want to go out and buy, they can. Tink Hens, Jordan Walker. I don't think they're going to move Jordan Walker. Victor Scott, I really like him, even though he struggled when he was up earlier this season. Like, I can see the Cardinals, because of their rotation, they had a tough weekend in Philly, but with Sonny Gray, the resurgent Lance Lynn, Kyle Gibson, like, I could see them sneaking into the playoffs. I like them better than the Cubs right now, believe it or not.
No, yeah. But I just don't like any of those teams. I don't like any of the Central teams. The best Central team right now, in my opinion, is the Pirates. But the Pirates have absolutely no consistency right now.
Are you talking about like this season or moving forward?
This season, right? Cut above, but then after that, give me the Pirates.
You're talking about the four underneath Milwaukee.
Yeah, the floor
Yeah,
underneath. Give me all
I would
Skeens
I would agree with Skeens and Jones for
and
sure.
Keller. Like, yeah.
That's a really good front three of a rotation move. Like that's a playoff front three.
That's good.
Yeah. I mean, Jones has been struggling a little bit in his last couple starts. He's come back down to earth, but Skeens is, top arm already in the league. Crazy.
All right, I got a group of teams for you. Boston, Tampa, and Arizona. What do you do?
Yeah, we mentioned those earlier. You said Boston, Tampa, and who?
Arizona. We haven't talked about them.
Yeah,
Neither have Boston.
Arizona.
They're both all these teams are like within 2 to 4 games of the wild card. It's just interesting to see what happens,
Tampa, like Randy has been so bad this year.
Isaac Paredes, the pole king.
Isaac Paredes, yeah, the pole king. I think Tampa, like they don't really have any exciting pieces this year. They already traded Glass now, so he's out of the picture. I just think they're kind of going to stand pat and hang around 500, convince themselves that they can push for a wild card spot. Boston, same type of thing. I think if you're Boston, you'd be smart to sell high on some of these arms, like a Cutter Crawford or a Tanner Houck that are having career years. I think it would be smart to move on from one of those guys this year because I don't think they're in contention for certainly a championship right now. I really, believe it or not, I really like their future with their farm system coming up. So things are still looking up in Boston overall. I think they should be smart and sell this year. And then the Diamondbacks, like, dude, what's going on with Corbin Carroll? Like, that's the biggest thing going on right now.
The shoulder shot, man. That shoulder should have that Cody Bellinger shoulder, man. He's shot. That's the thing. I'm telling you, they're just gonna have to eat that thing and just chill like that. Not much you can do.
Yeah, they need bullpen help, but a lot of teams need bullpen help. I still think Arizona can get back into it. I mean, they're only a game and a half back of the wild card. They're not going to be in the division by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, the Dodgers already have that thing locked up. Like they're just so uninspiring. Like I keep trying to talk myself into one of those teams behind the Dodgers in the American or the National League West, and I just like after seeing the Giants for 3 games this weekend, just no, it's not happening there.
No. I saw them against the Reds, and I was like, no, I can't.
Yeah.
This team's fielding like sometimes I feel like the guys that they field they're like all NPC baseball players, like
yes.
Same type of like Casey Smiths, like they're the same type of baseball players. Like
Lamont Wade Jr. at first,
and he's on the IL for the month with the hamstring, grade 2 hamstring. So
they lost Jung-Hoo Lee. I think the Padres, if I had to talk myself into one of those, like obviously Darvish and Musgrove just landed on the injured list again, but a front three of Cease, Darvish, and Musgrove is nice in the playoffs.
No, you got to talk yourself into the front three the Yankees could have had. The best front three the Yankees could have had. Cease, Brito, and King.
Yeah.
Cease, Brito, and King for the playoffs, man.
Can you imagine if the Yankees did go and make a move for Cease before the season?
They should have. They should have. The thing I think it came down to like Spencer Jones, Drew Thorpe scoring, and I mean, it's just I won't forget what somebody told me. Somebody told me, yeah, Aaron Judge is going to end up at first base at some point in his career.
Oh, he definitely will.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time when. So
I mean, he's 6 foot a million, 100, 200 something pounds. Like he's not gonna play center field, right field for his entire career. No way. He's already been taking reps at first base, like in spring training, just joking around. So,
hey, buddy, get ready. You're gonna be a first baseman.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the natural progression for him. I think. I mean, I think Rafael Devers is gonna be a first baseman at some point too.
Week in review, we talked about Jorge Lopez. Boggle, anything noteworthy? Ronald Acuna busting out his ACL. Angel Hernandez retired, which I think is great. I feel like that was something that was needed. Joe West came in his defense. I will reserve my commentary for that.
I don't think he retired. I think he was asked to retire, and he did.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's no way he just like, yeah, actually, like anytime they say I'm going to spend more time with his family, that is code for you're probably getting pushed out. Like no one is retiring because they want to spend more time with their family.
Or instead of getting pushed out to the family, it probably means, or when you get the one, oh, I'm getting a new role in the front office, like the Pete Carroll one. Oh, I'm getting elevated to a front office position. That means like, hey, we still want you, but it's time to go, pal.
Yeah, I just have a hard time believing Angel Hernandez was like, yeah, you know what? It's June, it's the end of May. I don't really feel like doing this anymore. I'm going to retire to spend more time with him. Like, no, he was asked to retire. But either way, yeah, he's gone.
Let's talk about his accolades, man.
Okay.
He was a 3-time All-Star game umpire. He was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-time divisional series umpire assigned. He was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-time LCS, 2-time World Series, and 1-time WBC.
Oh man, what did it say? What year he was in the WBC?
2023, the most recent.
Oh, the one we were at. Oh wow.
The funniest thing. Let's talk about Angel Hernandez's career arc right here. This is funny. He was called up to the major leagues in 1991 to be a substitute full-time umpire. Okay. 57 of his friends and family came to watch his debut. This is pretty big. Okay. So he ranked in 1999, he ranked 31st out of 36 umpires at an MLBPA survey. Okay.
That's not where you want to be.
And the Philadelphia Inquirer named him as a surprise of the 1995 umpire purge. In 2006 and 2011, Sports Illustrated had a poll, and he was ranked the 3rd worst umpire. In 2010, ESPN survey showed that 22% of Major League ballparks asked identified Hernandez as the worst umpire in major leagues. In 2016, Hernandez's lawsuit against MLB stated that MLB rated Hernandez's accuracy behind the plate at 96.88%, which was up from 92.19% in 2002, and said he did not miss any calls to the base pass. Interesting.
I will say it's a thankless job. I mean, it's really hard to umpire.
Oh, here's even better. In the 16, 17, 18 season, Hernandez's calls at first base were overturned 14 out of 18 video reviews for a 78% overturn rate, exceeding the 60% overturn rate for all first base calls by umpire that period.
That's pretty bad.
He averaged in a study done by Boston University. Like, you understand how, like, oh my God, how, like, this dude, Boston University showed that he performed better in 2018 than his average 2018. He averaged 19 incorrect calls a game, or 2.2 an inning.
Oh,
he compared better than the other people they studied. But Hernandez claimed in 2019 that he would only get 4 calls wrong a game. But the BU study showed that error rate was 5 times as higher.
Yeah, it seems like just like reading about this when he retired, like he was consistently rated in the bottom, 10 umpires in the league, but he was never rated as the absolute worst. So that's a positive. I mean,
don't forget the Armando Galarraga.
Wait, was he? He wasn't the first base umpire for that.
Yes, he was. You don't remember that Armando Galarraga perfect game? He blew it.
No, it was that. That wasn't him.
Yes, it was him.
No.
Yes, it was, dude. I remember it was that dude. How does nobody forget?
It was not him. It was Joyce. It was Jim Joyce.
I thought it was
put some respect on his name.
Oh God. Hey. Oh, that's enough. We don't need to talk about umpires.
All right, let's do a little standings update.
Let's do okay, standings. I mean, we pretty much talked about standings. Phillies are on fire. Dodgers, Dodgers are dodgering.
I'll do it. The Yankees, 3 games up in the American League East. That division is between the Yankees and the Orioles. Orioles are 3 back. Boston is 11.5 back. Tampa's 12.5 back, and Toronto is also 12.5 back. So that's between the Yankees and the Orioles for the East. The Central, the Guardians have kind of pulled away a little bit. They're 7-3 in their last 10, and they're 4 games up of Kansas City, who's had a surprising season. Minnesota is now 6 back. They're 7-3 in their last 10. Detroit, they can't hit. They somehow have a +2 run differential, but they're 6-4 in their last 10. They're 10 games back.
And they just haven't been able to.
And then the White Sox are 15-45. They're 24.5 back in that division. They're 0-10 in their last 10. They've lost 11 straight. Out west, Seattle, they're 4 games up of Texas. 7.5 back is Houston, 10 back is Oakland, and 12 back is the Angels. So A's are not in last.
If there was any consistency in that division by the Mariners, they'd be running away with that, just how the other teams were playing.
Yes, I agree, and I think that's the worst division in baseball, the American League West this year.
Yeah, the Rangers are just bad.
National League East, Phillies are running away with it. They're 7 games up of Atlanta right now. 13.5 back is Washington. The Mets are 17 back, and the Miami Marlins are 20.5 back. So that division might be over. The National League Central, you got the Brewers. They're 7.5 ahead of Chicago and St. Louis. Pittsburgh's 9 back, and Cincy is 10 back. And then the National League West, the Dodgers are 6.5 ahead of the Padres, 8.5 back, or 8.5 ahead of the Giants, 10 ahead of the Diamondbacks, and the Rockies are 15.5 back. So if you're looking for a division race this year, it might just be the American League East, maybe the American League Central. I think the West might not be over. And in the National League, I don't think there's going to be any good divisional races this year in that.
I think the Central could be good if Milwaukee hits a slide and those teams, but that division's awful. They find ways to lose baseball games.
Yeah.
Bets of the week. What you got?
You want me to go?
I'll go. I'm thinking Nats of the Mets. Mets are a train wreck. Nats play tomorrow, 3-game set. Nationals are playing good ball. They're in it. They were in Cleveland this weekend. They go home tomorrow. Give me both teams are traveling. Give me the Nats at home.
Okay. I am going with a bit of a surprise pick, and you might not like this one if you're listening. I'm going for the weekend pick. I'm going for the Oakland A's over the Toronto Blue Jays. So the Blue Jays are playing at home on Thursday against Baltimore. 4-game set, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday against Baltimore for Toronto. And then they fly out Thursday after their game, and they go all the way to Oakland for a 3-game set starting Friday. Oof. It's Bassett, Gausman, and to be determined for Toronto. And then for Oakland, it's to be determined Medina and Spence, Luis Medina or Medina and Mitch Spence. Not great. So it's not a bet on the pitching matchups. It's a bet on the travel. It's a bet on Toronto not being that good. A home game for Oakland. I don't feel great about this.
Yeah, no. I like the pick. I like the pick. Toronto went 15 innings on Friday night. 14 innings on Friday night.
Yeah, and I just don't think they're that good.
They went 14 innings on Friday night. They got smoked by Pittsburgh last night. And there's not going to be they're going to face Baltimore, and Baltimore's going to tax that bullpen. Yeah, I like it.
It might be a half unit pick, but it's going to be plus money. And I hit a plus money pick this weekend, so I'm feeling good. I'm feeling fresh.
All right, let's wrap it up with team of the month. What's your team of the month?
Let's go position by position, and you can say yours. I can say mine.
All right, I got Jansen's Toronto at catcher. Who you got?
And my catcher was Shea Langoliers out of Oakland. Had a great month. 6 home runs.
Don't mind that one. He had a good month. First baseman?
I went with Bryce Harper. You went with Vladdy Guerrero Jr.
Yeah, Toronto puts up runs, but runs do not produce wins in Major League Baseball. You also have to pitch. So Vladdy's caught fire. Jansen's been decent. He's been splitting time with Kirk. So I don't mind the Langoliers pick. So
Vladdy hit 357 in May, hell of a month, and Bryce Harper hit 7 home runs. So we both had Luis Arraez at second base. He hit 389 with a 415 OBP. Great month for him.
Mm-hmm.
And we also went with Jose Ramirez, both of us at third. 11 home runs, 1.61 OPS.
You mean
Great
Barry
month for
Bonds?
J-Ram. Yeah, great
Ready?
month for J-Ram.
J. Ram.
Short.
Seager.
You went with Seager. I went with Bobby Witt Jr. Could have gone
Both.
either way.
Could've
Seager
either.
had 11 homers.
Yeah, Seager was nuclear.
Bobby Witt had 5 homers, 7 stolen bases. Actually had a higher WAR than Seager did. Outfield, we both had Aaron Judge and Kyle Tucker as our 1-2. I mean,
Yep.
Aaron Judge, just an insane month. 14 home runs, 1.415 OPS, 282 WRC plus, 3.0 Fangraph WAR. Just modern day Babe Ruth. And then Kyle Tucker, 11 home runs, 962 OPS, 1.4 Fangraph WAR, 169 WRC plus. Had another great month. I think he was on our team of the month for April too.
He's nuts.
Yeah. Last outfield spot, you had Soto and I had Brent Rooker. Rooker had 6 homers and Soto had 7 home runs with a 1.5 F4. Rooker had a 1.2 F4. Great months for there. And then DH was Ohtani. He might be the DH every single month. 7 home runs, 8 stolen bases, 312 average, 1.2 F4. Great month for him.
Rooker was my utility guy of the month.
Yeah.
Like 4th outfielder.
I just don't have room to fit that on the graphic, so I just did DH.
Pitchers, I think it's pretty easy. I had Heel as my pitcher of the month.
Yeah, I could have gone with Heel. I tried to stay not super biased, so I just went with Chris Sale. I mean, Chris Sale had a great month too.
Yeah, Sale got rocked up Saturday, but I put Sale as my number 2. Heel was your number 2, right? You flip flopped.
Yeah, Heel was my number 2.
Yep. Lugo at 3 for me.
I had Reese Olson from Detroit.
Yeah, you got shelled yesterday.
Hey, that's June. Doesn't count toward May, baby.
Exactly. Give me Crochet as my 4th one.
I had Crochet 4 as well. Garrett Crochet from the White Sox.
And the Scoo Ball. My 5th one.
Hey, you had him 5, and I had Kyle Bradish 5, another guy that had a bad start yesterday.
Yeah, man. There's a reason they're not on my fantasy teams anymore. So
my team sucks.
Relievers Class A, Estrada, and Mott Strom. I think we only differed on Estrada.
Yeah, I had Strom, Clase, and Andres Munoz.
Yeah, Estrada's nuts. He struck out his 13 batters in a row.
Yeah, he has a 17.74 Ks per 9 in the month of May.
Mm-hmm.
A guy that the Cubs traded, I believe, this year.
Nuts. And my team of the month was the Yankees. Most disappointing was the Cubs.
Yeah, Yankees went 21-7. I had them. And my most disappointing was the Mets. They went 9-19.
I mean, the Mets are a train wreck. I mean, the tale of 2 New York teams. I don't know how you keep saying, "Oh, if Soto resigns, I don't think there's another team that can sign Soto unless Dodgers call up a firm and start layaway payments on Soto starting from now on until his death, Bobby Vanilla style contract."
So. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be fascinating. I don't know how much of a market there's going to be. He might just re-sign with the Yankees in the season at this point.
San Francisco might be the only other team.
And he's not going there. I don't think he's going to go to the West Coast, man.
That park is awful to hit home runs at. Like, you understand, like, people don't recognize, like, Soto and Judge, the home runs they've been hitting this afternoon, like this week, they've been 400-footers. Like, they're not like, oh, rinky-dink hits. These are like, in other parks, like in Boston, that ball's gone. A 464 ball in Boston, that's out. In Chicago, that's on accident.
Yeah.
So
it's really hard place to hit. And he just plays so much better on the East Coast. Like, I think they're saying, like, in an article that I was reading, because his family, it's easier for them to travel from the DR up to the East Coast than it is to go all the way out west. So
yeah, bro, it's a huge flight. Think about it. They got to fly 2 hours to at least Miami just to get on mainland, and then going out to San Diego is another 5-6 hour flight. Mm-hmm. At that point, you're just easier flying from DR to go to London or Europe or Africa. It's easier. Like, it's the same amount of time. So, and as we conclude this podcast, William has just sneezed, and now, what we got planned for the rest of the week? Anything big on the coming of the podcast?
Just stay tuned for the Instagram. Also, the NCAA college baseball regionals are happening this week. Virginia and NC State have already punched their tickets to the Supers. Kentucky looks like they're about to do so. Tennessee looks like they're about to do so as well. East Carolina is about to play the 5th game against Evansville. They lost round 1. Arizona got eliminated. They lost to they went 0-2, lost to Grand Canyon and Dallas Baptist. They're gone.
Oh God, that's big.
Yeah. No, outside of that, that was kind of the biggest upset. Otherwise, all the regional hosts are still in the tournament.
There we go.
So
anything
that's
else?
it. That's all I got.
Well, just keep it locked into the socials, locked in sports on Instagram, locked in sports pod on YouTube, locked in sports 0 at X/Twitter. Just keep it locked. Till next time, we'll bring you more content.
Yes, sir. Thank you all for listening. We'll catch you guys next week. Peace out. Peace.